The Young and the Restless spoilers. Phyllis's obsession and the battle for Cain. Phyllis Summers has always been a woman driven by a singular, almost obsessive desire to be with the most successful, powerful man in the room. Whether through charm, manipulation, or sheer will, she has always found herself entangled in relationships where ambition and love blur together. Her latest fixation? Cain Ashby. Phyllis, known for her ruthless pursuit of what she wants, has been setting her sights on Cain with a fervor that cannot be ignored. To her, being with Cain isn't just about love, it's about aligning herself with power, influence, and the potential for a future filled with luxury and status. Cain, a man with a strong, stable position in the business world, is the perfect target for someone like Phyllis, whose needs often go beyond emotional connection and venture into a more pragmatic realm of what relationships can offer. However, there's a problem. Cain is not interested in Phyllis at all. His focus is elsewhere, and that elsewhere happens to be Lily Winters, a woman who, at least outwardly, seems completely uninterested in Cain's advances. But what Phyllis doesn't realize, and perhaps refuses to acknowledge, is that Lily doesn't love Cain. Theirs is a business relationship, a partnership built on mutual respect for their professional ambitions rather than any emotional connection. They collaborate, they communicate, but there is no love between them, not in the way Phyllis perceives it. Yet, in the depths of her envy and longing, Phyllis refuses to back down. She cannot, and will not, accept being sidelined. For someone like Phyllis, failure is not an option. Not when there's an opportunity to be by the side of someone as influential as Cain. In her mind, this is her chance to prove that she is the one who deserves his affection, no matter the cost. Lily's conflicted feelings, jealousy and uncertainty. Despite her clear lack of romantic interest in Cain, Lily finds herself thrown into a web of emotions that she cannot fully understand. It starts with something simple yet powerful, jealousy. Lily can't help but notice the frequent dinners and drinks shared between Cain and Phyllis, the closeness that seems to be growing between them. As much as she tries to suppress it, Lily feels a sinking feeling in her chest every time she sees them together. They laugh, they smile, and there's an undeniable chemistry that sparks between them. Even though Lily has no romantic inclinations towards Cain, the very fact that someone else, the Phyllis, is vying for his attention stirs something deep inside her. She can't help but question why this jealousy is there. Why does it matter to her that Cain and Phyllis are spending so much time together? It confuses her, makes her feel vulnerable, and forces her to confront emotions she hasn't fully explored. What's worse for Lily is the nagging thought in the back of her mind: could Phyllis be sleeping with Cain? The way they flirt, the way they look at each other, it all feels dangerously close to crossing a line. While Lily refuses to admit any romantic interest, the growing proximity between Cain and Phyllis creates an almost tangible fear of loss. And the more Lily tries to bury these feelings, the more they resurface, like a storm she cannot control. What is truly terrifying for Lily is the realization that she cares more than she wants to. She has always prided herself on her ability to keep her emotions in check, to keep things professional, especially when it comes to relationships. But Phyllis's presence seems to throw all of that out the window. Why does she care so much? Why does it hurt to see them together? The feelings confuse Lily, and as much as she tries to deny them, there's a part of her that can't help but wonder. Is there more to her feelings than just professional rivalry? Phyllis's desperate pursuit, a woman on a mission. For Phyllis, the clock is ticking. She must act, and quickly, before she loses the battle for Cain's heart, or at least his attention, to someone else. It is clear to her that Cain is not interested in her in the way she desires. But Phyllis refuses to accept defeat. She is a woman who always gets what she wants, and she is determined to make Cain see her not just as a business partner but as someone he cannot live without. Phyllis's pursuit of Cain becomes more intense by the day. She finds herself doing everything in her power to prove that she is the right woman for him. She throws herself into their interactions, appearing charming, confident, and irresistible. Each encounter, whether it be a dinner, a drink, or a seemingly casual conversation, becomes a step toward winning him over. Phyllis is relentless, and there's something almost unsettling about the energy with which she throws herself into this mission. It's not just about love, it's about control. Phyllis sees herself as someone who can offer Cain something Lily cannot, a deeper connection, a different kind of partnership, and perhaps even the personal attention he craves. She's aware that Cain is a man with choices, but Phyllis is confident that she can be the one who stands out above all others. She's clever, resourceful, and knows just what to say to capture his attention, whether through flirtation, charm, or sheer will. But it's not just about winning Cain's love, it's about winning at all costs. Phyllis, a woman who has spent much of her life fighting for everything she has, refuses to let this opportunity slip through her fingers. She sees Cain as her ticket to a life of power and prestige, a role she's longed for but never fully attained. The tension builds, Cain's dilemma. As the power struggle between Phyllis and Lily intensifies, Cain finds himself at a crossroads. He has many choices, and not just when it comes to business. He can choose between two very different women, both offering something distinct. On one hand, there's Lily, the partner he works well with, the woman who understands him professionally, and the one he shares a deep respect for. On the other hand, there's Phyllis, passionate, driven, and unapologetically eager to show him what she can offer. Cain's heart is torn. He knows that Lily doesn't love him, but she's someone he trusts and respects. Phyllis, on the other hand, is like a storm that he can't ignore, a whirlwind of energy and desire that is both alluring and overwhelming. He knows that getting involved with Phyllis could complicate his life in ways that he isn't sure he's ready for. The question remains, who will Cain choose? As the tension builds, the lines between love, desire, and ambition become ever more blurred. Cain is no stranger to the complexities of relationships, but this time, he faces a choice that could have long-lasting consequences. The question is no longer about who he likes, it's about who can offer him what he truly needs. Phyllis's persistence and Lily's hidden feelings will collide, and the resulting drama will have ripple effects that could change the course of all their lives forever. Conclusion: a battle of hearts and ambitions. In the world of the young and the restless, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. For Phyllis, Lily, and Cain, this is more than just a love triangle. It's a battle of wills, a clash between ambition and emotion, and the kind of power struggle that will redefine the relationships of everyone involved. As the stakes rise, one thing is certain: the path ahead will be filled with twists, turns, and the kind of drama that fans of the show have come to expect. Phyllis, for all her cunning and drive, may not be prepared for the challenges that await her. And Lily, for all her resolve, may find that her heart has more to say than she ever anticipated. Ultimately, the question remains, who will Cain choose, and what will it mean for their futures? Despite Phyllis's tireless efforts to secure Cain's affection and Lily's growing emotional confusion, the reality remains unchanged. Cain's heart, though pulled in different directions, ultimately yearns for something familiar. It was never fully about the passion or even about conquest. Cain, as much as he had tried to detach himself from his past with Lily, found it impossible to truly move on. The more he engaged with Phyllis and flirted with the idea of a future with someone like her, fiery, ambitious, and relentless, the more he realized how deeply he still felt the gravitational pull toward Lily. There was an unspoken history between them, a bond forged not just in love but in pain, shared mistakes, and parenting. And now, with the emotional waters muddied by jealousy, ambition, and unfulfilled longing, Cain couldn't ignore the ache in his chest every time he looked at Lily and remembered what they once had. In a moment of vulnerability, Cain found himself doing something he swore he wouldn't: he asked Lily for another chance. He didn't approach her with arrogance or presumption, but with quiet hope, a plea for the possibility of healing what was broken. But Lily, ever pragmatic, had already made peace with their past. She refused to go down that road again. There had been too many disappointments, too much emotional wreckage scattered along the path they once walked. She told him, with both firmness and sadness, that her future didn't include rekindling an old flame just because it still glowed faintly in the shadows. Cain was devastated. Though he had suspected her answer, hearing it aloud carried a finality that rattled him. But rather than plead or spiral, Cain made a decision. One that was both painful and necessary. He would stop chasing what could not be. He would step into his responsibilities fully and alone, focusing on his children, his work, and creating a life where his self-worth didn't hinge on Lily's forgiveness or acceptance. He was tired of trying to force something that had already died a quiet death. If Lily wouldn't give him another chance, he would at least be the best father he could be to their children, and rebuild his life with dignity. And then came an unexpected shift. Holden Novak arrived in Genoa City. His presence, though casual at first glance, carried layers of intent. Holden wasn't just a visitor, he came to discuss a potential job opportunity, though the timing and the nature of the offer seemed oddly convenient. What Cain presented was deceptively simple, a position managing his multiple real estate assets in the area. It was a respectable offer on the surface, but Lily wasn't convinced. She had always been intuitive, and something about this arrangement didn't sit right with her. Holden was charismatic, sharp, and clearly intrigued by the opportunities Cain had put forth. But Lily saw shadows where others saw light. She remembered too well how people like Cain operated when they felt emotionally cornered. They pivoted, they maneuvered, and sometimes they pulled others into storms that were never theirs to weather. Lily believed that Cain's offer was less about opportunity and more about influence, perhaps even control. And she wasn't about to let another man, especially one as promising as Holden, fall into the same traps. But Lily's concern ran even deeper. With haunting sincerity, she brought up the death of Damian Cain, a loss still surrounded by ambiguity and sorrow. She didn't mince words, she warned Holden outright. Whatever loyalty Cain expected from him, whatever job security he believed he was receiving, there would always be strings attached. And if Holden didn't walk away before it was too late, he might find himself caught in a web that would leave him as broken and forgotten as Damian had been. Her words weren't threats, they were warnings, steeped in painful wisdom. Holden, though visibly shaken, didn't offer an immediate answer. He respected Lily, perhaps even more than Cain, and her caution wasn't something he took lightly. Yet, the allure of success and the desire to make his own mark in Genoa City kept him from walking away. He promised to consider everything, but deep down, both he and Lily knew the decision wouldn't come without consequence. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner of Genoa City, a completely separate tension was beginning to simmer. At Society, the upscale restaurant that had become a hub of secrets and schemes, Phyllis Summers was experiencing something rare, doubt. She had spent the past few weeks consumed by her pursuit of Cain, channeling her energy into making herself indispensable, desirable, and ever-present in his life. But now, something felt off. A subtle shift in energy, a lingering unease that she couldn't shake. Her suspicions focused not on Cain, but on Nick Newman. Once an integral part of her chaotic romantic past, Nick was now behaving oddly detached. He wasn't angry. He wasn't jealous. And most concerning of all, he wasn't reacting when Cain's name came up. Phyllis had expected tension, some form of indignation from Nick, especially after learning about Cain's recent aggression, including the shocking moment when Cain took Nick hostage during a confrontation that spiraled out of control. But Nick was quiet, unnervingly so. Phyllis sat across from him, nursing a glass of wine, watching as he smiled politely, shrugged off mentions of Cain, and deflected questions with vague responses. It wasn't like him. Nick, usually so protective and direct, seemed indifferent. And that indifference scared her more than any outburst would have. Because if Nick wasn't angry, then what was he hiding? The revelation that Cain had taken Nick hostage should have been explosive. It should have been enough to sever any remaining ties between Cain and Phyllis, at least in Nick's eyes. But instead, it was met with a calm so artificial that Phyllis began to wonder if there was a deeper play at work. Had Nick struck a deal? Was there something bigger behind Cain's actions? Something dangerous? For a woman like Phyllis, instinctual, cunning, and always 5 steps ahead, this development triggered alarm bells. She began to retrace the events of the past few weeks, the choices Cain had made, the calculated steps he had taken since Lily's rejection, and now, Nick's disturbing indifference. The pieces didn't fit, and she hated not knowing what puzzle they were part of. Whatever was happening behind the scenes, Phyllis knew one thing: she had to find out, and fast. Because in Genoa City, the moment you stop looking over your shoulder is the moment you get stabbed in the back. And so, the tangled web between Phyllis, Cain, Lily, Holden, and now Nick continues to tighten. The emotional stakes are escalating, alliances are shifting, and secrets are beginning to unravel in quiet, devastating ways. For Phyllis, love may have been the initial prize, but now, survival and control have taken precedence. For Cain, what started as a pursuit of redemption may become a dangerous spiral. And for Lily and Holden, the road ahead is riddled with choices that could define, or destroy, everything they believe in. In the restless world of Genoa City, one truth remains: no relationship stays untouched, no secret stays buried, and no ambition goes unpunished.